Hello everybody, hope you're all doing well. My name is Steven and this is the Storytime channel. Today we have some malicious compliance stories and our first story of the day is by Baoland. I didn't know being sick was first come first serve. So this happened to me a while ago, 2014-ish, when I worked at a fast food restaurant in the UK with a red-headed clown as a mascot as well as for some of the managers there. I have tons of malicious compliance stories from this place and one day I will get around to posting them all, but for now, here is this one. Now, being an eating establishment, hygiene is very important as you can imagine. The policy when I started there, and as far as I'm aware is the same to this day, maybe even more strict considering the whole pandemic thing that's happening, was that if you were sick, you had to have 48 hours off from the time you call in sick to ensure that you are better for returning to work so you don't poison the customers. Makes sense, right? I'm ill, I'm handling food, I'm going to get others sick. I'm not feeling great at all this shift. I was feeling a little off in the morning, but thought I might be able to get better by the evening when my shift is. Over the day, I started to get a cough, fever, runny and blocked nose, headache, full-on cold. The policy also states that if you are going to call in sick, it should be no later than 2 hours before your shift starts. Fair enough. It gets to 2 hours before my small 4-hour shift and I feel dreadful, so I call up the manager on the shift that day. Hi manager, it's OP. Cough. I feel awful, I shouldn't be working today. Sniff. Manager says, you can't be sick, we need you in today. I say, I really am not well, I'm coughing and my nose is running everywhere. Deep, heavy cough. The manager says, I have already had 3 people call in sick for today, so you need to be here. See you in a couple hours. Hangs up. So here I am, dripping with sweat, looking like death could take me at any moment, so with a small smirk on my face I think, okay, guess I'm gonna go to work tonight. I proceed to get ready, get in the car, and drive to work. Now, there is no back door for employees to slip into at this place, so we have to use the main entrance and walk through the dining area to go into the back of the kitchen. So step 1, make sure I am seen by as many people as possible looking like something out of a horror movie. I shamble through the front door, making sure to have a fit of coughing complete in my uniform so all the customers can see I am unwell. I make sure to wave and say hi to my colleagues on the counter in the huskiest voice I have before wandering through to the door that leads to the kitchen. At this point, I would like to say that I was in fact very sick that day and I should not have been working, but I wanted to teach my boss a lesson, so I might have exaggerated my symptoms just a little bit to make sure the point stuck. I make it to the break room where 2 of my crewmates are and immediately both ask if I'm feeling alright. I tell them no, but I have a point to prove, which is why I'm here. I check the rota in the break room and bingo, I'm on the register, front of house. Everyone can see me. This is perfect for step 2. Ensure each person I serve questions if I'm fit to work. I wander through the kitchen to the register and start working. My first customer places an order and they look a little wary. I get them their food, they go and sit down to start eating. My boss has seen this exchange and you can see the gears turning in his head. Can't be having a zombie serving food. I know, let's put them in the kitchen where they can't be seen. I get told to swap with a person who was working grill, so yes, I am no longer seen by anyone, but they have moved me from working with wrapped food which I couldn't contaminate to working with creating the food from scratch. Great idea there, boss. FYI, I never intentionally poisoned someone's food, I was trying to be very good and stepped out of the kitchen every time I needed to cough and blow my nose, washed my hands and then got back to it. I have been working for an hour or so now, still 3 to go, and by this point I'm feeling lightheaded and unable to focus on what I'm doing. I'm not exaggerating anymore. I am not good at all. It's not very busy, so I'm just trying to keep myself on my feet. In walks the night manager, who happens to be the acting store manager too. Night manager says, "Evening, OP." I grunt and sniff. Night manager says, "Are you feeling alright?" I slowly shake my head. Night manager says, "Why didn't you call in sick?" I say, "I did. I was told that others had already called in sick, so I had to be here." She looks around at the pretty empty restaurant and plenty of staff, including the manager who had me come in, sitting in the dining area pretending to look busy while being on his phone. Night manager says, clock out, go home, get better, and don't worry about your shifts for the next 2 days. I nod, and just before I go to get my stuff, I see her storm to the manager in the break area before dragging him into the office. I go back to work after a couple of days like I was told, feeling 100%. I am greeted by the night manager who checks on me, which I'm grateful for. I start to work and get caught up on the workplace gossip. Turns out, the manager who made me work that day was given a right bollocking that night and he turned in his resignation the next day, or so the rumor goes. So if you were noticeably sick and your manager told you it doesn't matter, come in, are you going in and trying to do some kind of malicious compliance, or are you outright refusing and staying home? Let me know what you would have done in the comments down below. Our next story is by ExoRevan. Obnoxious manager tells me I might as well go home with my attitude. I comply. This story happened to me a few years ago when I was working in a cafe as a cashier/waiter. Side note, my job was to work the bar and handle till, but I was expected to help out waiters when I had the time, and they were swamped. Fun times. The place had 2 managers, one of which I'll call Awesome because that's what she was, and the other I'll call Witch, no points for guessing why. Awesome manager was a 40-something woman that took no crap from people, but was always willing to help if it was needed. Witch, on the other hand, was an entitled brat no older than 23, insisted that everyone referred to her by her full name, and generally spent her time at work berating people and chatting with 1 or 2 friends. Either way, due to some sort of scheduling shenanigans, it turned out that for a weekend, we would only have myself and 1 waiter working in there. I still have no clue how that happened or why would everyone be okay with it, but we ended up having half the necessary workforce for a weekend. Saturday comes and the place is utterly packed. I'm talking full seating packed here. Awesome manager helps me and waiter out. We are exhausted but managed to pull through. I was hoping Sunday would be less stressful. Boy, how wrong I was. Sunday comes and it's Witch who is on shift. As it goes, around 1 to 2 p.m. the place starts getting filled in, and both me and waiter are running around like headless chickens trying to serve a full cafe. Witch is sitting in her office despite me walking up to her and asking to help us. Okay, whatever. The rush dies down a little, but I have several orders for tea and an empty boiler, seeing as how I didn't have time to refill it. Water goes in, I go behind the bar and wait. Witch enters the stage. Seeing several empty teacups and me standing there, Witch asks me why I haven't made tea yet. I, as calmly as one could be after such a rush, tell her that I haven't had the time to refill the boiler and I will get it done as soon as it heats up. Witch says, "Well, why hadn't you refilled it earlier? It's your job, do it properly." At this point, I was already stressed out enough for me to slam my fist down onto the bar and point at all the tables seated. I said I didn't have enough time. And I told you we needed help half an hour ago. I'm doing my job as well as I can while being understaffed. This has definitely struck a nerve as she looks me in the eye and goes, "If you can't control your emotions, maybe you should go home right now." I say, "Sure, I'll be on my way." And I headed to the dressing room. She naturally decided to follow. "I will make sure to fine you," an amount of Russian money nobody here would get, "for leaving this shift early." I said, "I don't care, feel free." And just like that, I left my shift not even 5 hours in. I honestly felt so relieved this day. It made me realize that it's not worth it to put up with abuse on your work just for a paycheck. As an added bonus, next time I came on my shift, Witch was going out of her way to not talk to me, and I haven't had any fines for leaving that day. Though I did apologize to waiter, but he was understanding. A few days later, I had a talk with HR who told me that it's pretty hard to find a job these days, so maybe I should be more reserved? I told her that I was planning to move cities and this was my second to last month of working there. She didn't have much else to say. For this story, you don't really have to look at it too hard to realize that it's all just a bad manager. Bad manager doesn't care, willing to throw you under the bus. Even in this economy, OP's probably better off looking for another job than dealing with that. This next story is by KotoElessar, a literal ton of salt. I was recently reminded of an incident in my youth when I worked for a large Canadian big box store known for having its own currency. If you are Canadian or have been to Canada, you know the one. For the most part, a decent place to work, got my first aid/AED certificate, as well as my forklift license at 16 through them. Being the youngest licensed operator on staff who also was not in a management position meant I was largely the go-to person for grabbing things with the forklift. However, I was not given my own key. So one cold and blustery December right before Christmas, the customer service manager needed me to move a pallet of water softener salt from the back dock to the front of the store. It would sit right outside of the entrance. 12-kilogram bags, 10 to a row, 10 rows high. Not too hard to do on a flat ground, just needs a bit of a jerk to get it moving, and provided you don't have to stop, the weight keeps it moving on its own with little force. However, they were not in the warehouse dock, but outside to make it easier for the forklift to pick them up and move them round front. The customer service manager was not trained on the forklift and did not have a key. And for some reason on that busy day before Christmas, neither did anyone else in the store. A fact I tried to explain, but was just told to get it done. Now, the exterior of the dock is one of those ones that slopes down so the truck can be level with the floor to make it easier to offload and move stock to the floor. Naturally, these salt pallets were next to the store's exterior wall, and we did not have a power jack, just the regular old hand carts. There is a trick to moving heavy loads uphill. Don't try to pull it straight up, make small incremental zigzags, 6 to 12 inches to one side at a time, slowly walking it up the hill. An hour and a half later, it was at the front door of the store. The customer service manager was, needless to say, extremely angry that the only person who was covering the warehouse for the entire store had disappeared for an hour and a half and demanded to know why I hadn't just used the forklift. I replied that no one in the store had the key. She had told me to just get it done and that it was now time for my legally entitled 15 minutes of break. The next day, I was given my own key to the forklift, and all management was required to go for forklift training. You would just think for an employee who's licensed to do the work they do on a day-to-day basis, they would be equipped with all the supplies they need to actively do the job. Not some weird, I have to find a key from somebody else to actually begin my work. This next story is by Mohgreen, Minor Malicious Compliance with Deltek. So Deltek, a great tool for timesheets and a ball and chain at times too. Recently, I'd been given my mid-year review and was dinged pretty hard for not knowing/not checking my utilization rate. I knew I was to be at 85% or better, but not what my exact number was. I knew I was good though. So since then, every Monday, I'm checking my numbers, usually floating about 90% or so depending on various meetings not billable to projects. Last week, however, I had about a day's worth of work that was for projects, but I wasn't given a project number. I had to stick it all on admin, which crushed my weekly rate to like 82%. Cue the emails to my PM and my boss. I need a number for this work. We will get you one. No problem. By Saturday, still no number. Fired an email off to my boss, no response. Monday, however, we have a hard deadline that all timesheets have to be done by 8 a.m. 8:10, I get a reminder email from the timesheet guy. Hey, where's your timesheet? Emailed him the short version of what's going on. 8:30, I get an email from my boss. Why is your timesheet not done? Pointing back to my emails about needing a project number and how it's crushing my utilization. I can't have this unbillable time on my sheet. 15 minutes later, I get an email that a new project number is open for me. Timesheet submitted. And look, I'm at 97% for the last week. I'm not saying nobody is to blame, but even in the most perfect of systems, sometimes there's cracks in it that can slip through, and it might have been a legitimate error that took them until more than the last second to correct, but it didn't hurt OP in the end, which is great. And our final story of the day is by Vengeance058. Well, I gave what you wanted, right? Any video professionals? I work for a collegiate athletics department, where one of my many duties is creating intro videos for teams. The thing that plays on a video board ahead of games. Our baseball coach was of the type that believes they know what looks best on video instead of the guy paid to do it. He wants old highlights, footage of pro players, a voiceover, text, etc. All of which looks bad and very, very cheesy. Music choice was less than stellar. I tried to change his mind, but as the deadline grew, I eventually decided, okay, I'll do it how you want. Cue its first showing, the team laughed at him. Loudly, not at the video, but at him, because they knew it was his idea, and you could hear it throughout the stands. Several opposing teams did as well when they saw it. Next season, much more conciliatory when it came to do the new one. Some people have the absolute best eye for these kinds of things, and some people think they have the absolute best eye for these types of things. We all know which one this coach landed on. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So if you had a favorite story of the day, let me know which story and why in the comments down below. But besides that, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like and subscribe if you haven't. Also, please consider turning on notifications so you'll never miss an upcoming video too. No matter what you did, whether it was viewing the video, liking, commenting, subscribing, thank you all so very much for supporting the Storytime channel. Every little thing that you guys do helps the channel grow more and more every single day, and I appreciate the heck out of it. I hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you all next time right here.